What Jolyon Palmer has just disclosed might very well be a career-ending sentence for the entire Red Bull racing operation. This comes on the back of relentless paddock murmurs and strategic leaks that were even exposed by the latest Netflix cameras. We are witnessing the crumbling of an empire in real time, and the implications for the 2026 season are nothing short of catastrophic. When we cast our eyes over the timing screens, it is genuinely harrowing to see a quadruple world champion like Max Verstappen desperately clawing just to escape the second qualifying session. He is fighting for an 8th place start that, for a driver of his caliber, feels like the very back of the grid. If we pause to scrutinize the technical trajectory, it becomes clear. The power unit project and the exodus of brilliant minds like Adrian Newey and Jonathan Wheatley have left a cavernous power vacuum. Not even the immense talent of the Dutchman can compensate for a chassis that has transformed from a world beater into a midfield tractor. Is this the definitive end of their technical supremacy? Toto Wolff has never made a secret of his greatest professional regret, failing to sign Max Verstappen before his Toro Rosso debut. But now, with Mercedes-AMG Petronas undeniably possessing the superior technical package under the new regulations, the tables have turned with a vengeance. It is a case of technical karma. Mercedes has engineered a literal rocket, while the fastest pilot on the planet is stranded in a piece of agricultural machinery. Sources within the paddock are adamant that communication channels were never truly severed. With Red Bull plummeting down the pecking order, this flirtation has evolved into a cold, hard necessity for Verstappen's professional survival. There is a critical detail that most observers are completely overlooking. If Verstappen secures a seat, who is the sacrificial lamb? George Russell has already exhibited visible signs of exasperation during recent press conferences, and quite rightly so. He has been delivering the results, consistently outperforming the young prodigy Kimi Antonelli. Yet how do you possibly say no to a talent like Verstappen? We are looking at an imminent collision of egos. On one side, you have the team's future with Antonelli. On the other, the established authority of Russell. And sandwiched in between is the finest driver of the current era demanding a cockpit. It is a political hand grenade in the hands of Toto Wolff that could utterly implode the harmony within Mercedes. But let's be honest, what team principal in their right mind would ignore a ringing telephone with a Monaco area code and the name Jos Verstappen flashing on the screen? There is an old saying that having too many chiefs and not enough Indians is a guaranteed recipe for a total catastrophe. Well, it appears Lawrence Stroll has decided to completely ignore that warning, meticulously assembling a literal powder keg at the Aston Martin headquarters. And let's be perfectly honest, the news that Jonathan Wheatley is heading to Silverstone after his spectacular fiasco at Audi is not even the most terrifying part of this equation. What truly has the entire paddock on edge is the persistent rumor that he is demanding a Christian Horner-proof clause in his new contract. You have to ask yourself, why on earth would Wheatley be so desperate to legally bar his former boss? The answer lies in the carnage that unfolded at Hinwil. Wheatley arrived at Audi under the impression he would be the one calling the shots, only to collide head-on with Mattia Binotto. Binotto had already made the bed, bringing half of Maranello with him before Wheatley even stepped through the factory gates. The result? Wheatley was reduced to a glorified assistant, a high-end public relations officer. He is clearly refusing to repeat that humiliation. To accept the command at Aston Martin, knowing that Christian Horner might emerge as chief executive officer, is, for him, signing a formal warrant of total submission. Lawrence Stroll's strategy is transparent. He wants to rebuild the championship-winning Red Bull machine within the walls of Aston Martin. He already has Adrian Newey, who, let's face it, is the one who truly dictates the rhythm of the drawing board and the complex suspension geometry. Now he wants the right-hand man, Wheatley, to operate the trackside execution. But there is a crucial detail that almost everyone is missing. If Horner enters this combination, the internal power balance will instantly detonate. Wheatley knows that wherever Horner treads, he dominates absolutely. For a team that needs Newey to focus 100% on the aerodynamics and the dynamic behavior of the 2026 car, an ego war between the sporting director and a centralizing chief executive officer is asking for the project to be dead on arrival. It is like promising a rocket and delivering a madhouse. The tension is palpable, and the stakes could not be higher. If Wheatley fails to secure his autonomy, the entire structure of the team could crumble before the first wheel turns in the new era of the sport. Can Wheatley actually hold the line against such a political titan, or is Horner already preparing to deliver the final checkmate? We are talking about a team that needs to be operating at 100% efficiency to challenge the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari, yet they seem more preoccupied with boardroom warfare than track limits. Charles Leclerc has just made a startling admission that he is effectively losing his grip against the veteran prowess of Lewis Hamilton. Let us be perfectly honest here. Witnessing Leclerc barricaded inside the Maranello simulator, desperately attempting to relearn the fundamental art of braking, is the clearest possible indication that the emergency sirens are wailing. That solitary one-point advantage in the driver's standings is a fragile illusion that the Chinese Grand Prix very nearly shattered, and the shadow cast by the heptacampion has never loomed larger or more intimidating. You have to ask yourself, how can a driver who knows every single nut and bolt of the Ferrari operation be swallowed whole by a newcomer? The crux of the problem lies within the 2026 technical regulations. You must disregard everything you thought you knew about aggressive late braking. With the advent of the new power units, the absolute priority is battery regeneration and energy deployment. Hamilton, with his decades of expertise in mechanical sympathy and equipment preservation, has unlocked the secret, braking early to harvest maximum electrical energy. Meanwhile, Leclerc, traditionally the undisputed master of braking on the absolute limit, is finding his signature style completely redundant. Leclerc has spent recent days in Maranello attempting to overhaul his entire driving philosophy to avoid further humiliation at the Japanese Grand Prix. There is a technical nuance that most observers are failing to grasp. Ferrari is about to deploy the controversial Macarena active rear wing. They withheld this specific aerodynamic component in Shanghai due to legitimate fears of structural failure and balance inconsistency. But the internal pressure has reached such a boiling point that they are now opting for a make-or-break strategy. With the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile formally sanctioning the new halo-mounted winglets, the Scuderia is frantically trying to restore the stability Charles has lost. If he does not achieve a significant qualitative leap immediately, Hamilton will seize the reins of the entire team before the European summer even begins. Many of you have commented that the hype surrounding Hamilton would reach ridiculous levels if he started winning, and the reality is that this narrative is already eroding the morale on Leclerc's side of the garage. While the Mercedes W17 appears to be an unreachable rocket ship, the battle for third place has devolved into an all-out civil war within Ferrari. It is a high-stakes game of psychological chess. Hamilton remains composed and smiling, consistently delivering podium finishes while proving far more efficient in the telemetry data. Leclerc is fighting the car, while Hamilton is simply perfecting the science of the new era. Scuderia Ferrari HP has officially gone on the offensive, and the primary target is the very backyard of Toto Wolff. Frédéric Vasseur has completely abandoned any sense of diplomatic niceties, lodging a remarkably heavy formal complaint with the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile. The focal point? The questionable legality of the Mercedes-AMG Petronas front wing. Let us be perfectly blunt. When a performance leap seems too good to be true, there is usually a skeleton in the closet, and the sheer dominance of Mercedes in Shanghai was a miracle that not even the most optimistic German engineer could have predicted. The alleged masterstroke, or perhaps the technical fraud of the century, revolves around a highly sophisticated two-phase wing closure system. Ferrari's technical delegates assert that Mercedes has engineered a mechanism that snaps the wing shut in a mere 400 milliseconds, specifically for show, or more accurately, to satisfy the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile sensors. But here is the real sting in the tail. Once the sensor registers the all clear, the wing supposedly continues to articulate at a glacial pace into an aerodynamically forbidden configuration. It is the ultimate sleight of hand, passing the breathalyzer test only to down another pint immediately after. If we pause to scrutinize the telemetry, a confirmation of this would mean the Shanghai 1-2 finish was not a display of raw talent, but rather engineering that is far too creative for the rulebook. There is a critical detail that very few observers are picking up on. Lewis Hamilton is standing right in the eye of this hurricane. The Englishman, who now dons the scarlet of the prancing horse, has been dropping subtle hints regarding potential power unit irregularities at his former stable. One has to wonder, has Lewis provided the treasure map to the Ferrari engineers? Hamilton knows every single secret buried within the walls of Brackley, and he might well be utilizing that intimate knowledge to implode the very empire he spent over a decade building. Is this the ultimate act of professional revenge, or simply the cold-blooded instinct of a man determined to win at any cost? Many of you have commented that Mercedes had seemingly discovered a magic bullet within the new 2026 regulations, but Ferrari is out to prove that this magic is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. The initial murmurs regarding engine compression ratios were the smoke. Now, with this ghost wing controversy, we have a raging fire. The Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile is backed into a corner. They must either admit their censors are obsolete and embarrassingly easy to circumvent, or they must sanction Mercedes and trigger a technical scandal without precedent in the history of the sport. Did Mercedes promise a rocket ship only to deliver an elaborate fraud? Or is Ferrari simply attempting to scream their way to a victory they cannot achieve on the tarmac? The undeniable fact is that the Japanese Grand Prix weekend begins under a colossal shadow looming over the silver arrows. If the governing body compels Mercedes to modify their wing architecture at Suzuka, Toto Wolff's entire strategic house of cards could disintegrate in seconds. The pressing question remains: in this high-stakes war of nerves, who is going to blink first?